Hello, Erfan. I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to have you here this evening. I guess first and foremost, how does it feel to be one of the winners of this inaugural award, especially with people like Tilda Swinton, Edward Enninful, and the BFI behind it?
I mean, it's difficult to put into words. I'm not even going to try, but I have a lot of respect for BFI. They have been so integral in so much of the British talent that has come through over the years. So to be part of that, to be part of that story is just incredible. And to be recognized by Chanel, which is obviously has been at the heart of the glamour in the film industry for so many years, but also has been sort of revolutionizing the brand film for many, many years as well. I've always considered myself a fashion idol, but this association will get other people to to believe it too.
And obviously, just coming to the film itself, Child of Empire, talk us through a little bit about what audiences can expect if they watch your film, but also why was it important to you to go back and revisit this period of history, the partition of India, and kind of put it on screen in a completely unique and sort of revolutionary way?
This project started when I met Sparsh, my partner on the project, about 3 years ago. He wanted to create a VR experience that took his granddad back to where he was from. I thought that was the perfect use of VR. I'm a firm believer that VR needs to be used for the right purpose rather than just for the sake of it being VR. And then the more we chatted, the more it became apparent that actually a lot of themes of the partition still apply today. I'll admit I was very ignorant about the subject matter until I started working on it. Being Iranian and having grown up in London, I found that quite strange. This year is the 75th year anniversary of the partition. And it feels like people have a bigger appetite now for, listening to those sort of stories that maybe it's a different narrative to what we've heard so far. Obviously, the political themes still very much apply today across the world. It's not necessarily like to certain borders, but also at the heart of the film, or experience rather, is a personal story about two people who've gone through some horrible stuff, who have certain views embedded in them, but we put them at the table, talking to each other, like listening to an opposition story with an open mind is the personal story that I want people to get out of it, but also to also understand what the events of the partition were, because it is a very important moment in our history, in our recent history.
And I think one of the problems sometimes for people to look at history and kind of get behind the facts and the figures and the headlines is, not being able to connect with the people that were involved. And there's been a lot of discussion about colonialism after the Queen passed away, for example. Do you think documentaries, in particular your type of kind of using virtual reality, allows people to empathize in a way that perhaps they can't, through other mediums?
Look, I'm not going to speak for other people, but for me personally, as you said, when you look at like a documentary that's like talking heads, facts and figures, I zone out very fast. Maybe I'm not the most engaged audience member, whereas, especially like what stories that are like you don't necessarily associate with, as like Iranian, like the history of maybe South Asia is not as interesting to me as rather like, story about Iran. What VR has helped us do with this project is, rather than put a screen on and like be like this is what you should care about, people that were able to actually live the story from inside out and walk in the shoes of our survivors, become part of the story, rather than hear someone else's story. You experience it firsthand, so I feel like by default you care more.
And just very quickly, Iranian filmmakers seem to be everywhere lately. It seems to be like a healthy industry there. And what might be working on next as well?
So actually, my filmmaking idol is Abbas Kiarostami. I was lucky enough to spend some time with him before he passed away. Of course, there's so many legends and titans in the industry. If I can replicate any of their success, even half their success, I'll consider myself lucky. For my next project, I would love to explore making film in a traditional medium, as well as continue my work in VR. I think what my experience has allowed me to become is a multidisciplinary storyteller, sort of like finding the right medium for the right story. So yeah, for my future project, for my next film, I would like to actually make something that's more embedded into my personal story, my upbringing. Not to say that I'm going to make a documentary about myself, but rather a fiction that has roots in reality.
Amazing. It was lovely to chat to you, and congratulations. Thanks so much. Thank you. Cheers.